I thought that this was an interesting theory in which I want to share with you. Now, this video is not about whether Adam and Eve is a true or a false story. This video is going to use Adam and Eve as an analogy or an allegorical story. So the theory goes like this. In the womb, as you are developing in the womb, the subconscious is still there and it is absorbing, right? It's absorbing what's going on. So subconscious, which is part of the limbic system, the central nervous system, it's everything besides the consciousness that takes place later, around the age of 11, 12, 13. When you're in the womb, everything is perfect. Like everything's perfect. You have all of your needs met. You have no needs. You have no wants. You are connecting with a higher power, which is your mother at that point. And you will never be loved like that again. You will never have that euphoric feeling like that again. So that's the first part of the theory. That is the Garden of Eden right there. Everything's perfect. You can't get hurt. You are completely loved. All your needs are met. And then when you leave the garden, when you are birthed into reality, reality starts to set in. It's hard. You have to work. You have loss. You have pain. You have, the human experience that we have, which is pretty much a painful experience for the most part. Part of life is just suffering itself. And I'm not trying to sound too pessimistic, although I'm going to, because it's more of a realistic point of view. So after you are birthed and you leave the garden, there is a feeling of wanting to return to the garden. Now, this also goes, this idea of never being loved that way again also extends further into adulthood when you are searching for a wife as a male, or I guess as a female, depending on your orientation. And this idea that no one will ever love you the way that your mom loved you. But that's a whole nother idea, because then you have childhood, and were they good moms, were they whatever. So the second part of the theory is this: there's a subconscious craving to return to Eden, to return to that perfection, to that utopia, and this is why, for the most part, we try and numb ourselves. We do drugs. We eat too much food. We're sedating ourselves with porn and Netflix and fill in the blank, as we're trying to be as comfortable as possible, because we don't like the fact that once you leave the garden, it's all work at that point. There's so much work and pain and suffering. So the subconscious will do what is familiar. It's always attracted to what's familiar, because and there are two parts of this. It goes back to the fact that you are between the ages of 0 and 6 or 7 or 8. In fact, before the age of 0, before you're even born, right? As I said, when you're in the womb, the subconscious is taking things in there. I know people who have been in car accidents, or have had fireworks go off next to them when they were pregnant, and their child was born with an anxiety disorder. And now, was that really part of it? Was it passed down from the mom? I'm not going to argue that, but it's just odd that that can happen, because the subconscious is still absorbing. And so at a young age, you're absorbing all the characteristics of your environment, how your parents interact or don't interact, what they do with money, what they do with friends and work and all that stuff. And you're sitting there and you're absorbing all this stuff. And this is as close to Eden that you've ever been, besides being in Eden. And so therefore, when you grow up, you repeat what was familiar. So the subconscious is always going after what was familiar. And so I was born with a heart problem, and I had heart surgery when I was a year old, 17 months, something like that. And so right off the bat, I struggle with boundaries, because that's what was familiar. I always had people crossing my physical boundaries to save me, to help me. But at a young age, you don't know the difference because the rational mind's not working. It's not even up and running at that point. You're just absorbing. And so people crossing my boundaries, that's familiar to me, and that's as close to Eden as I can get, kind of thing. And therefore, in my adulthood, people pleasing and boundary setting has always been an issue. It's always been something that I struggled with. And then the idea that I'm looking for someone to come and save me, because when I was younger, there's that feeling of not only are they crossing your boundaries, but they're crossing your boundaries to save you. And so that messes you up a little bit. So my subconscious is always going towards what's familiar. So it's taken me a long time to change the subconscious messaging there. So why am I saying all this? What does this mean? I would urge you to look into your childhood and see what messages, what beliefs, what thought processes came from that or developed in your childhood that you are still following today. And like I said, there are 4 ways. I said it in a past video, not necessarily in this one, but there are 4 ways to reprogram that subconscious, to reprogram the what they call subconscious programming, or the conditioning. There's hypnosis, which actually you can do through meditation. There's trauma, which typically that's more of a negative impact. There's repetition, which is basically, daily repeating the same affirmations, repeating the same mantras. And in the psychological world, they call it self-talk, what you're saying to yourself, repeating the same behaviors, trying to create new habits. And the hope is that these healthier behaviors, these healthier thought processes go inward. And then the last but not least is Psych K, which I didn't really go into all that much. Psych K stands for psychological kinesthetics. I don't even know if I'm saying that word, but it's basically about the feeling. So the subconscious, when you think about dreams, the subconscious thinks in 3 forms. And dreams are nothing more than the conscious and the subconscious communicating with each other while you're sleeping. During the day, you're creating thoughts, and at night, you're processing thoughts. And you're processing through the subconscious, and the 3 forms in which the subconscious thinks is visualization, auditorial, and then feeling, or kinesthetics, which is the psychological kinesthetics. And what you can do to help reprogram your subconscious, right? If you don't like what your subconscious is familiar with, as it's trying to return to Eden, as it's trying to return to that innocence, that childhood, that familiarity of what you absorbed as a child, if you don't like that, what you do is you take some deep breaths. Take a moment and breathe in life. Just breathe it in, close your eyes, breathe, take some deep breaths, right? Deep breaths, right? I ask some people to take deep breaths like that's not very deep. Like, breathe it into your belly and breathe it out. And you do this 4, 5, 6 times, and you feel yourself relax. And the more relaxed you get, the more you get into that theta stage, or that theta state, that brain wave. And that's when you start to repeat affirmations, mantras, self-talk, and you conjure up the feeling. If you saw my last video, it was on the idea that we are more in control of our feelings than we think we are. Actors do it all the time. They're not really in love, they're just acting. But you could have fooled me, right? They're not really angry, they're just acting, but you could have fooled me, kind of thing. And so we have to act as if. So you take a subconscious belief, a subconscious program that you are sick of following. Maybe it's about money. Maybe you thought money was the root of all evil. No, it's the love of it. It's that constant chasing. Maybe you felt as though you're not good enough, or that you were left out, or like for me, that boundaries, people cross my boundaries because they know what's best for me. And so that's why I allowed those things to happen. So in my case, I would say, no, I know what's best for me. I need to trust my intuition. I need to trust the God-given instinct that I have. And I need to start implementing healthy boundaries. I need to start thinking about, do I want these? Rather than asking, do they know what's best for me? I say, I know what's best for me. And this either is or isn't. So as you're in this relaxed state, you take the belief that you're trying to change, and you work on it. You constantly repeat to yourself. You feel the feeling of someone who would be good with boundaries. You feel what it would be like to be confident in your own decision, and you conjure up these feelings. So, and then here's the other thing, is you start imagining it. Imagine what it would look like if you set boundaries, healthy boundaries. Imagine what it would look like if someone didn't like you setting boundaries. How do you want to handle that? And so you start visualizing this, right? You start hearing yourself speak. You start hearing what they would say. You start hearing the situation unfold, and then you start feeling what it would be. So that's the VAK, the visual audio kinesthetics. The subconscious is going to go towards what's familiar. That's what it wants to do. It wants to go towards what's familiar to you, because it's trying to return back to that innocence, back to the Garden of Eden. And we have to ask ourselves, are these outdated beliefs? Are these outdated? And if they are, if they're not helping you, then you need to take action. The VAK is one way to do it. There are lots of other ways. Like I said, repetition, constantly repeating on a daily basis. There are other ways to do it. So if you want more information, if you want help figuring these things out, reconditioning or reprogramming the subconscious programming, feel free to reach out. Emails in the description. Please hit the like button, get that algorithm going for me. Feel free to leave a comment. Until next time, my friends, until next time.